legends. Let's get the party on the road. Legends, smash up that like button if you haven't done so already. Let's put the music so ever so slightly here in the background. And whew, what a nice dump we got last night. To the downside, I was not awake to trade it because, as you all know, for those that's been following me for a while, one of my strings is catching tops and bottoms. Okay? So First up, guys, we need to discuss what is happening here with the price of Bitcoin. We have lost trend, okay? We have lost the trend, and now I'm tracking the momentum to the downside. And just from a simplicity perspective, okay, as long as this trend is respected to the downside, price can continue to the downside. Just to keep it simple. So once this trend breaks, that's where we're going to pay attention, okay? Because the one thing that I do know is that if price breaks the trend and you have a three-wave structure to the downside, there's a high chance you're going to claim this high. Not always. It's just a game of probabilities at the moment, especially if we tap this red box over here, especially if we tap the red box. The reason I have the green box over here and the red box over here is because that is where the local liquidity lies. And you can see that price is now here in the middle of these two liquidity zones. And the question is it going to go down first, grab the liquidity, shoot up? Or is it going to go up first, grab the liquidity and shoot down? Right, so we need to pay attention to the trend. But as always, guys, I can tell you now that if price decides to break the trend over here, okay, I know where my profit taking areas is. I will go on to the smaller time frames and I will take a fib from the high to the low. And when you start hitting these levels, you take profits, okay? Because if price does not claim that pivot, okay, let's say it breaks out, you take profit, it does not claim this high, and you form a lower high, price could still tank here to the downside. Very importante, like Andy likes to say. Okay, very important, guys, is that price needs to break out and claim this high. Once this high is claimed, then the probabilities will increase that, okay, we could then break the larger trend over here. So, you know, I just wanted to start off keeping things simple, okay? Where do I get that trend from? Well, it's basically this little these two pivots that I've connected for now. This little pivot, the all-time high, with this little high that we formed over here. And the question is price going to continue to the downside, okay, respecting the trend, the momentum, like it did with this one to the upside? Every time, bounce, 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 and it broke. Right, so it could literally come back, bounce, 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 and at some stage it can either waterfall to the downside, then only break, or it's going to break this trend before it claims the lows. So there's a couple of scenarios and possibilities that I would like to discuss during this live stream. I just want to make sure that my mic is coming through. Yeah, you guys can see me, you can hear me. Just put the music so one tap softer here in the background. Okay, I will go through some comments in a moment, guys, but you know, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to be brief, I'm going to be bright, and I'm going to be gone, because it is the next move that will show us which direction Bitcoin wants to go to. But for now, what I like to do is, since we got this little bearishness to the downside, let's talk a little bit bearish scenarios, because I know when people see green, we're going to $200,000. When people see red or purple, in my case, the bear market has started. So to entertain those emotions, let's talk a little bit bearish. The one thing that I do want to highlight over here is if I go onto the 8 hour, okay, maybe even the 12 hour. Let's go to the 12 hour. Let's zoom out. Let's switch off. No, I'm going to leave that for now. Okay, I'm going to leave that for now. Right. One thing I want to point out over here, legends, looking at the structure, and you will see I have a couple of trends, but let's pay attention to the thick white one that I have over here, and let's make it solid, that one. Okay, so you can see since the low was created here, on the 5th of August, that bloodbath, for those of you that's been around, that 5th of August was an absolute bloodbath. That's also where I loaded up on some altcoins. This is where I bought some XRP. I can't remember everything that I bought, but you know, if you go back to this live stream, you'll know I bought some altcoins when we made that dip over there. Anyways, when you connect that pivot with that pivot and these two little pivots over here, you now have a lovely trend here to the upside. And usually what happens is price bounces on the trend, makes a wave, comes back down, bounces on the trend. Maybe this is a next wave, and it could come and bounce on the trend again, where we have massive horizontal support and trend support. Okay. So from the most bearish case scenario that I see at the moment, if all crap hits the fan, okay, we're going to need some really bad news to send price to $94,000. Okay. Also, what is interesting to note, if I zoom into this price or zoom out into this price action and I switch on the volume, let's keep it simple. Okay, you can see that we have a high volume node right over here. Okay, let me just take that price action out the way. Let's do this. Just wait for it to load up. Okay, you guys can see it's a significant amount of volume that was traded. You know, you can see support, 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 support. You lost it. Okay, resistance, resistance. You broke out. And we have not come back to retest the scene of the crime, as I like to call it. We've broken out of resistance, okay? And what price likes to do is it will often come back to the scene of the crime, flipping resistance back into support, and you get another wave to the upside. You get your waves. Can you guys see? You get your waves. Right? So this could be, in the worst case scenario, the spring point that we need for the price of Bitcoin, regardless of what happens over here. But like I've said during every single live stream, the probabilities are still high that we're going to claim this high again before we start a bear market. Basically, before we claim this low. So from a probability perspective, this high has a higher chance of being claimed than the low. Okay, worst case scenario, I see Bitcoin finding support at the trend and at support where we have the point of control, where in this price action, the most amount of volume was traded. Let's just keep it simple, guys. What could happen is, because I know the market loves to do this, is it has a fake out to the downside. Remember those little, it lost the trend, like it did over there, it lost the trend. Okay, but you still form a higher low, and maybe you bounce on this rare trend over there, and you get acceptance back above. Okay, the fake out, the one that's going to make the world bearish. We're going into the bear market. Okay, and where I get that trend from, okay, go a little bit back, very simple, okay, is just basically connecting this low with these two pivots. Okay, so we do have a backup momentum line over here that has not been tapped. It was front run over here. So this could be a fake out, a bounce. You still create a higher low for continuation, and the bull market is still intact. So this is the scenario that I wanted to start off with, is that in the worst case scenario, I see $94,000. Okay, right. The base case scenario, and I have seen this play out many times as well. Let me go on to the daily time frame. The base case scenario is what happened with this trend. Look at what happened with this trend over here. Okay, look at this trend. Okay, price bounced, it bounced, it bounced, it bounced, and then it just went. Okay, it's very far from the home line down here. Okay, this is what I call the bear market trend line, because what I believe is once we go into a bear market, we must probably going to come back to this trend, and that's going to be our bear market, right? Because this impulse has to correct itself at some point, right? Anyways, so what could happen over here from a bullish perspective is it does not come here. Okay, it does this. It just leaves. It leaves the home line behind. It's parabolic. It just continuously moves to the upside. And we're going to talk about the probabilities in terms of, okay, well, what locally can we see for where price could potentially bounce? Because we do have a high, very high volume node over here. You can see very high volume. We broke the highs. Okay, can you guys see how you struggled here by the highs? Struggle, break out. We have not retested the scene of the crime. So you could get the bounce over here, continue leaving these people behind. So all I was trying to demonstrate with this level is if all hell breaks loose and there's some really bad news, I think this is the level that's going to get hit. If there's nothing bad, okay, there's some good news, rate cut starts to kick in, the economy, you know, everyone's bullish, risk on assets starts getting some love, I think this is going to be the level. $104,000, $105,000. Okay, we did break out, you come back, you flip support, resistance into support, and off to the races you go. Now you guys can see why this trend is so important. So can you see how I just use trends to track the momentum? It's as simple as that. Okay, look at what happened when we broke this trend. Look at this. Okay, I remember this fake out. I remember this fake out. There was many live streams about this fake out, and I said, guys, on the higher time frame, if we leave a wick behind, it's gonna be a fake out. That's what happened. Okay, you can go back to these live streams that I did here on the 2nd of April. I spoke about it, guys. It needs to close a body above. If it leaves a wick behind, it's gonna come claim the low again, and that's exactly what it did. But anyways, it broke the trend successfully, closed high time frame candles above. That's what you would like to see, and it claimed the high. Beautiful trade. So you guys can see that the larger the time frame that you trade, the daily, the 8-hour, the 12-hour time frames, the better the trades play out. The problem with the higher time frames is no one has the patience to trade them. Because if you played, okay, just let's put it into perspective. If you played this breakout, and let's say this was your trading plan, okay, it's breaking out, I'm entering. Stop goes below the low, perfectly fine, I'm targeting the highs. Okay, so from the breakout to when the highs was claimed was 41 days. You would have had one trade in 41 days. You would have waited 41 days for this trade to play out and claim the high. Who has the patience, right? But can you see the larger the time frame, the higher the probability? Okay, I would have definitely taken TP1, TP2. Okay, because you just never know. You get those breakouts, it makes a lower high, and it falls to the downside. That's just my strategy, guys, because you have a wall of resistance. You can see the consolidation that price formed in that zone as well. Okay, let me just take the VRVP out the way, clean up the chart so you can all see very nicely, crispy clean. Right, look at this. You broke out, closed, you know, very important. You closed daily candles outside the trend. That's a bullish sign, guys. Okay, and then when you hit resistance, price forms a consolidation area, struggling. Eventually it pops out. This is why this always becomes a TP1. But nonetheless, you would have waited a month and a half, okay, for this trade to play out. But now you guys can see, you know, playing the D-line strategy on smaller time frames is great, but playing it on the larger time frames, that's where it becomes really rewarding. But you have to be patient. Okay, you're going to have one trade every 2 months, one trade a month, depending on which time frame you're trading. Okay, but the probabilities of the success of the trade becomes higher and higher. Right, nothing's ever guaranteed. You just need to know where to take profits. Okay, I can guarantee you if you know where to take profits, even if you get stopped out, because, you know, usually when I take TP1, that is where I protect position. That's it. So if price wants to, you know, TP1, maybe I take 50 or 60%, I get stopped out with 60% profits. That's the key, guys. That's the key. Anyways, I'm here back into education mode. Okay, I'm sure you are all interested in what's happening here at the price of Bitcoin. So let's go on to the smaller time frame and look at this little crazy consolidation that's forming here at the moment. Okay, what is going to happen? I want to go into the 1 hour and just talk about this structure here to the upside. Right. Hit the like, bro. Stefan1, welcome to the live stream. My Baker, hey Dewald, do you wait for any candle close below SFP level to enter a trade, or do you enter when price starts rejecting? Sometimes I miss the trade when I wait for candle close. Yeah, I don't wait for candle closes. I wait for the reaction at that level. So, you know, from an education perspective, I'm not going to dive into too much detail today, but I have explained it many times. But basically I wait for the pullback above or below the level, whether I'm waiting for a short or a long. So welcome here to the live stream. Alec, welcome. Stefan1 showing the love. Okay, Joe Ish GR, like and share comments. Welcome to the live stream. Irina, always great to see you here. You've been, you know, supporting me from day one when I started my YouTube channel. So thank you so much. I see my brother here in the stream as well. Yes, he's making me another new song and he can't wait for me to play it here on the live stream. So I'm just waiting for that to be ready, and then hopefully in the next live stream I'll be able to share that new song with you guys. Okay, so let's carry on with the technical analysis. Tino Nesh, what's up, bro? Welcome to the live stream. Okay, let's go, legends. So I'm not sure if I should stick out my neck and say this, guys, but this structure to the upside, this little structure here to the upside, I'm having a really difficult time as convincingly counting it as an impulsive structure. It just looks way better as a corrective structure. Okay, usually impulsive structures, they are nice, they are clean, they just make sense. You don't struggle to count them. You can see the 5 waves in them. Okay, this one, it feels like you kind of have to force it. Okay, especially if you go here onto the, let's go onto the daily. I think it's where I saw on the daily this morning. I like to zoom out if the structure doesn't make sense. But on the daily, okay, it's clear on the daily. Okay, without going into the detailed counts, because that's where you can lose your mind in the detailed counts. But on the daily time frame, I can see a wave up and I can see a wave down. Beautiful. I can see another wave up and I can see another wave down. Beautiful. And I can see another wave up. So I can see a 5-wave structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's just keep it simple. If you have a 5-wave structure to the upside, what you would like to see is for a 3-wave corrective structure to correct the impulse. So this impulse needs to correct itself in a 3-wave structure. But what is very important for me is that the correction needs to end after the 0.382 from a time fib perspective. So if I take a time fib from the low to the high, simple guys, from the low to the high, you double click at the high. Well, now you can see that this damn low, okay, was made before the 0.382. So if this is the high and it's an impulsive structure, the correction ain't done yet. There's just a high probability that it's not done. So maybe you get a 3-wave structure down, you get a 3-wave up, and you get another 3-wave down, and then you break out. Okay, so for the bulls, if this is an impulse, you want to see a larger 3-wave structure that finishes after, when is this date? The 24th of September. Okay. Guys, I cannot tell you on the larger time frames how important time is, because I've seen it many times that you get an impulse to the upside and that scary momentum here to the downside, you get people buying like crazy. The low is in, but they don't consider time. Okay, the higher the time frame, the more accurate technical analysis becomes. And if I look on the daily time frame from the low to the high and I see this, it makes me nervous to say that I'm all in. It's going to claim the highs and bull market continues. Yes, it can still claim the highs from a corrective perspective, but the correction is not done. So you might be asking yourself, well, what do you mean, Dewald? What do you mean we can claim the highs, but the correction is not done? It's because what could happen, okay, and the market loves this structure. They love it. It's the most famous structure on Bitcoin. Okay, you get a wave down, you get a wave up, takes the high, okay, grabs the liquidity, and then you get an impulse to the downside. Now, this is what we refer to as a flat. It's a flat corrective structure, but this is all still part of the corrective structure. So it makes people believe that the bull market or the structure is continuing, but it's not. It's still busy with a correction because of this. The only time I do not consider this is if this low was made over here. So if the structure did this, I would have said, okay, guys, there's a chance that we could break out and go to higher levels. But nah, this is not giving me confidence, guys. Remember, at the end of the day, I trade probabilities. That's it. If I miss a trade, so let's say, okay, price does this. Let's say price does this. It just goes. $125,000. I am very happy to say I missed it. Make no mistake, because I need to trust my technical analysis and I need to stick to my rules. If my rule says this is not time to buy yet because of this, I don't buy, because it's my rules that keeps me safe. It is my rules that keeps me consistently profitable. Okay, and if my rule says this is not a great spot to to go to all-time high and your TP areas are way up here, well, I'm happy to miss the trade, and then I'll look for next trading opportunity over here. That's just how I rock and roll. Okay. Right, I hope this makes sense. Easy stuff. Yes, Stefan 1, I'm trying to explain it as easy as possible. Can you guys see how I combine trends, how I combine support, resistances with Elliott wave theory? Because I know some people get very overwhelmed with Elliott wave theory. There's people that, I've seen comments on Andy's stream, on my stream, of people saying, stop talking about Elliott wave theory, it's shit. Well, I'm here to tell you, if it wasn't for Elliott wave theory, I will not be able to read the structures, because the structures is key for me. Okay, the structures are key. Okay, so now let's dive into the smaller time frame. So the one beautiful thing I want to leave you with tonight is that if you have a hard time counting the structures inside, is it bullish? Is it bearish? Is it an ABC? Is it a WX? What the hell is going on here? The best advice I can give you is stick to the larger time frames. Okay, you don't have to go and count every structure in detail, but I can see you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave structure. This pivot did not overlap this pivot. Most important, just remember that rule. This pivot, you don't want to see the overlap this pivot. Now you have potentially a 5 wave structure to the upside. Okay. You don't have to go crazy, like go onto the 5 minute or 1 minute time frame and you're like there counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's the wave 1. Then you have, oh shit, this doesn't make sense. This, like, just stick to the larger time frame, guys. You have a 5 wave structure up. And for now, we have a 3 wave structure down. Keep it simple. Okay, right, let's dive into the smaller time frame and do some technical analysis on this little drop here to the downside. How's that? Okay. Hi, Dewald and Legends. Jack, welcome to the live stream. Elliott wave theory is one thing. The most juicy stuff is how Dewald is searching for additional confluences like support and resistances. TM, yeah, you're so right. Okay, I love Elliott wave theory, especially when it aligns, okay, with other tools that I use. I don't use Elliott wave theory in isolation. Okay, so I know from a price action perspective that this is going to provide tremendous support. And if I have a 3 wave structure to, not here, if I had a larger 3 wave structure here to the downside and it started reacting, that's where I bring Elliott wave theory into it, just to say that, well, from a price action perspective, this is support. From an Elliott wave perspective, I see a 3 wave structure down. I have a trend. It starts to break out. Then I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, done. Let's go. Right, then I start to long. So I combine Elliott wave theory with other levels of confluence. Definitely very important to do that. Okay, so now I said this a couple of times, but let's go on to the 15-minute time frame and look at this structure over here. So I will get to this in a moment, guys, but this structure, I know that I showed you on the larger time frame, it looks like a 5-wave structure. But now this is where experience kicks in a little bit, as well, is to say that it just looks like a very ugly 5-wave structure on the smaller time frame. It looks messy, but it's still a 5-wave structure. Okay, worst case scenario, it is a W, X, Y, Y is in the wrong place. Let me do this. I actually have it prepared. There we go. This is, guys and ladies and gentlemen, let me just put it here into the chart. I can take this time fib out. Wait for it to load up. A W, X, Y, X, Z structure is incredibly rare. It's a very, very rare corrective structure. I told the Legends, the pro community the other day, I never talk about these structures because of how rare they are. Because they mimic a 5-wave impulsive structure and then they fall down. Oops. Where's my pen? And then they fall down and take the low. And then everyone's like, but it was a 5-wave structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if it's a W, X, Y, X, Z, it's a corrective structure. And there's a high chance you're going to take this low. So that's where a little bit of experience kicked in. But I have to say it's a very rare 5-wave structure. So if you have now a situation, okay, this is now the conundrum. Is it a 5-wave impulse or is it a corrective structure? What the earth is it? Well, you need to look at this to get the clues now. Okay, is it correcting down or is it impulsing to the downside? Because if it's going to create impulses to the downside, you're going to take this low. And you can even go much lower to $94,000, like I've just shared with everyone during the beginning of the stream. Okay, so this is now where it becomes interesting, Legends, is that let me show you what could potentially play out if this is a W, X, Y, X, Z. You form an A, B, C to the downside. Okay, so it's a 3-wave structure. You tap the increased probability line that I have over here. This is what I told the Legends. As soon as we tap this line, I will give this scenario higher probability. For the moment, it doesn't have the highest probability. As soon as it taps the green line over here, I will give it slightly higher probability. Okay, taps the green line, breaks the trend, gets the fake out from the trend, it fakes out and it comes back down for a B. Maybe it claims the low, maybe it doesn't, maybe it makes a higher low, I don't care, right? But usually when you have a fake out from a trend, you claim the lows. So there's a high chance that you could get a B flat over here, and then you go up for a C, but you make a lower high, and then all hell breaks loose and price falls to the downside, claiming the low. Okay, so definitely a scenario that I will be paying attention to, but I would like the green line to be tapped. You might be asking, Dewald, where do you get the green line from? Just simple, just to tell everyone, if you take a fib, just keep it simple. Fib retracement from this highs that we created here over the weekend, you drag it down to the low that we created, and you will see it aligns perfectly with the 0.618. So remember the probabilities that I always talk about, guys, is that if you see a 1, 2, 3 and you want to make a 4 and a 5 to the downside, you should not tap the 618. If you do tap the 618, you could still claim the low, but the probabilities of successfully breaking down starts decreasing. Okay, so I will be ready for a swing failure from the lows. I will be ready. Okay, definitely I will be ready. Right, even if it double bottoms over here, even if it does that, I will definitely be ready on a swing failure pattern. This is my first trading scenario that I am now waiting for, without going into all the scenarios and probabilities, because I will keep the pro community updated based on how price develops. Okay, whether we're going to get the ABC and a 5-wave structure to the downside, depending on how price develops over here, I will keep the Legends Pro community up to date. If you would like to join our Legends Pro community, link is always down in the description. Yeah, Legends Pro community. That's where you can join our Legends Pro community, where I do daily updates, and we have some coaches and some really experienced people inside there sharing their analysis, their charts, their trading setups, where they are interested, liquidity. I mean, everyone is just having a fiesta sharing trading scenarios and ideas over there. And as always, guys, Bluffin, Weeks, and BTCC, this is where you get the biggest sign-up bonuses, lowest trading fees by using the links down in the description. Costs you nothing extra. All you need is an email and a password. If you'd like to come and trade, support the channel. And let's get back into the price action over here. Okay. So that's where I will keep everyone up to date, because I know I don't go live on YouTube every single day. Okay, but I do spend a lot of time inside of the community every single day. Right, so we will be watching these scenarios over here. Interesting order block also, very interesting order block, and you have this nothingness over here. So, okay, would be interesting to get fake out, you break the trend. Okay, usually when you get a fake out, you break the trend. Remember what I showed you on the larger time frame? You increase the probabilities of taking the low. So this will be a really interesting scenario. So if we tap the 0.618, you can still claim the low, but it doesn't mean that you are going to break down successfully unless it's a double 1-2. Okay, and that is the worst case scenario that I see over here. So legends, to be on the safe side, okay, if you're looking for longs to claim the all-time high potentially again, or at least this high over here, okay, and maybe a little bit higher, $121,000, let's not be greedy. This pivot has to be claimed. Okay, for me to start turning like really bullish, this pivot needs to be claimed, just to keep it simple. Yes, I can scalp this range over here, definitely, make no mistake. But for me to start switching bullish, this pivot needs to be claimed. Because this could now be, the worst case scenario is you have a 1-2, 1-2, okay, and it just tanks. Okay, that's what I'm saying, guys. No reaction, okay, as long as price is below my area of interest, no trade. Okay, I just want to see if I still have this level on the chart. It's like what happened over here, guys, at the weekly point of control. Okay, price broke down and it got a reaction. Beautiful reaction at the weekly naked point of control. Okay, got a nice little SFP, got stopped out, double bottom, looked beautiful. It looked like it was getting ready to bounce. Okay, and like I say, guys, this is my area of interest. But make no mistake, even if I got stopped out with this trade, because there's 2 weeks there to the downside, even if I get stopped out, my stop loss will be here in this zone, because I am not interested in anything below my area of interest. And look at what happened. If you were trading without a stop loss because you saw the reaction at the weekly point of control, well, then now you are very deep underwater, very deep underwater. Not a beautiful sign at the moment. Okay, just risk management, guys, and this is why I'm saying here as well. Okay, let me just switch on the daily levels. I want to see if there's still some areas of support. What a beautiful bounce, by the way. What a beautiful SFP. I was asleep during this time, or no, I wasn't asleep. I was not in front of the PC. I was doing a school run. Okay, I wasn't in front of the PC. When I came back, I saw the drop. I was like, oh shit. But what a beautiful bounce here on the daily. Can you guys see how important these levels are? Okay, also, if you do some Fibonacci pulls, guys, I'm just educating, okay? That's all I'm doing. I'm just educating, showing you guys how to do this yourself. If I take a fib from the high to the low to the high, ooh. Where did price get the bounce? Yeah, at the daily level and at the 1.618. Got a beautiful reaction here to the upside. Nice little scalp trade here to the upside. Can this level hold? Yes, there's a chance that this level can hold because you still have this liquidity pool over here. Price can fall down here, dip into the liquidity. It's like, well, we've grabbed liquidity. There's nothing else to do here, so let's go grab the top liquidity. Okay, so this trade could turn into a bigger trade here to the upside. Right, so for those of you that did catch the 0.618 and the daily level, I hope you've taken some profits, especially because we hit the 0.382. If you take a fib from the high to the low, we did tap the first profit taking area. Yes, there's a chance that it could still come to the trend, reject at this liquidity pool. And but make no mistake, I will be very interested in another leg to the downside, and if it bounces and it gets acceptance back above. And with a little bit of experience, you know, well, there's another daily level and there's a 2 extension over here. Very interesting. Okay. I could potentially have less risk by waiting for this if I know how to successfully play a swing failure pattern without getting myself into trouble at these 2 levels. Exactly what happened 6 o'clock in the morning here in my time. Okay. If I zoom in here, guys, look at this. I mean, it was just such a beautiful swing failure pattern. I can tell you guys now, if I was in front of the chart, I would have traded this. Okay, maybe my entry wouldn't have been perfect. Maybe my entry would have been a little bit higher. Okay, because I wasn't in front of the PC to see how fast this happened. Okay, so let's say it just dipped down and it shot back up. Maybe my entry would have been a bit higher, but I would have definitely given this an attempt because you have a daily 1.618. You get the reaction, price starts retracing, you get in, you know exactly where to put your stop loss, and TP1 was hit over there. Okay, you might be asking, well, how do you know that was a TP1? Because how I work out my profit taking areas is, let's take all the noise here out quickly. Okay, if I take a fib from the highest point of the structure, which is that little pivot over there, to the lowest point of the structure, okay, the Fibonacci levels for me always becomes profit taking areas. 382, that's why I would have taken profits over here if I got into this long. Definitely a profit taking area. If price dips in here, does not take the low, it comes back up, another profit taking area, because you're not guaranteed you're going to come and hit this order block because you have a liquidity pool over here. Okay, so this interesting long opportunity, interesting shorting opportunity. Okay, interesting long opportunity because if price dips into this liquidity and it slices through and it gets acceptance back above, I will be paying attention if I'm awake. Definitely if I'm awake. Right, so let's talk about a little bit of structure. Legends, and then I'll go through some comments. I know I'm just going and going and going and going, but I want to talk a little bit about structure. So, like I said on the thumbnail, Bitcoin will show us what it wants to do next. You have to be patient. And this is something that I posted for the pro community this morning. When I got back to my desk, okay, and I saw this, there was nothing. It was just a straight candle to the downside. I cannot give anyone a trading scenario or opportunity that I'm looking at this if I just see a candle to the downside. It needs to start consolidating because the consolidation gives you clues as to where the next levels lie, okay, for trading opportunities. Because it could have just continued. It could have just, okay, I didn't know if it was going to stop or whether it was going to continue, because you all know what happens sometimes. It goes, it just does this, and it goes, and it just does this, and it goes, okay? I didn't know if it wanted to stop over here. And this is why this morning I told the pros, for you that you're here in the live stream, sorry, I can't give you a trading opportunity. There's not enough data for me to do that. And you just have to bloody sit on your hands. Sometimes you just have to sit on your hands and do nothing. Because if you did not get into this long, there's no business trading this. It doesn't make sense to trade this for me unless you shorted the 0.382. Because, and this is where I want to talk about structure, this could be a 5-wave impulse. Let me take out the trends over here. Okay. So, worst case scenario, or actually still good case scenario, is you have a 1, you have a 2, you have a 3. Okay, you have now officially a 3-wave structure. Okay, So what you would like for another low to the downside is a 5-wave structure. 4, 5. Once you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, can you guys see why I'm still looking for long? Because if you have, or when you have a 5-wave impulse now to the downside, it needs to correct itself. I can play the correction. It's going to be very dangerous if you see a 5-wave impulse, because it means that this low is a high chance of being claimed again. But as soon as price, bounces on that daily level that I've highlighted that I have down here, or that 2 extension, I can still get into a trade. Because after a 5-wave structure, you usually get a 3-wave retracement. Loads of resistance. There's a good chance it's going to hit this level. I can trade that. That's an epic. Okay, and then it continues and I can short this. Okay, so the structure needs to show us the way, because I can tell you guys now that if we get another leg to the downside, we officially have a 5-wave structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we see this, there's a high chance we're going to go down again after the retracement. Okay, and we could go and hit $95,000, right? I do think for price to hit $95,000, it would actually be better to form a double 1-2 over here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, it invalidates the 5th wave. It invalidates the 5th wave because you're tapping the 0.618. And then everyone's like, thank God we're not getting another move to the downside. And then you get a 1, 2, 1, 2. I would actually like to see this pivot tap this pivot. That would be perfect if this pivot can tap that pivot. Because in a double 1-2, you actually want the waves to overlap. You want to see a 1, 2, 1. Okay, look at that pivot. 2. You want to see a 2 that taps this pivot. Because once you have a double 1-2, do you know what happens? Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. Can you guys see how aggressive this can get still to the downside? This is why this structure needs to show me the way. That is why if I'm attempting any longs in the zone, I will be aggressive with profit taking. As long as this low of high is not claimed, I will be looking for shorts if I attempt any longs. I will be aggressive with profit taking. Because the worst case scenario that could happen over here is a 1-2, 1-2, bang, and it falls, guys, and it doesn't have to stop at the 1.618. It can get really nasty to the downside. I do not want to be in any swing long positions until this high is claimed. Not interested. Okay. In a corrective structure, yes, you could form an A. You could form a B that does claim the high, and then you go down in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you have a 3-wave structure, higher, low, continuation. That's fine, but you've claimed that high. So even with a low over here, you have an increased probability that this low is protected. So the structure has to unfold in order for me to give certain scenarios higher probability. So if we claim this high, you can see why I will be looking for longs. It's not a case of, okay, we tapped a deal, now we just go all in. No, the structure still needs to unfold because this low was made before the 0.382 from a timing perspective. So even if price claims this low and it goes higher, I don't care because I know it's most likely going to come back down and give me the entry that I'm looking for because this low was made too soon. Right, that's basically what I wanted to discuss over here, guys. I was looking at a couple of altcoins, Ethereum. Okay, just quickly want to talk about ETH. Okay, because this is something that I spoke about on my last live stream. Okay, for those of you that were in the last live stream, you know I spoke about this. Okay, let me just take this out. Let me go back here onto the 4-hour time frame. What did I say, guys? Everyone's looking at this triangle. Yes, it has a chance of breaking out where you formed an A, B, C, D, E. This low needs to hold. That's where your stop loss goes. If it's an A, B, C, D, E, you don't want to claim this low again. Okay, and then you want to see the breakout, right, to go and complete a fifth wave to the upside. I did say, guys, there's too many people watching this triangle. And when I go onto the smaller time frame, I can see an impulse to the downside. That's what scared me, and I think that's also what gave Andy some of the confidence to hold on to his short for a little bit longer. Okay, because of, where was it? This move. Beautiful impulse, by the way, to the downside, where you formed, look at this, guys, 5-wave structure. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-wave structure to the downside. Now you need to be, oh shit. Oh shit. If you see a 5-wave structure to the downside, you should go, oh shit. Because there's a good chance you're going to make a lower high and continue to the downside. It's exactly what happened. Because this structure here to the upside also counted very beautifully as an A, B flat, okay, took the low, right? Went up in a C wave. So you basically have A, B, C, and this is what I spoke about during the last live stream, guys. There's a chance you have a 5-wave structure to the downside. Okay, if you go and rewatch the live stream that I made with this, you will hear that I was leaning bearish. For me, it didn't make sense for this to be the low. I was leaning very bearish. I told everyone I'm not feeling the bullish case scenario. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, and bang to the downside. So now we lost the triangle over here. Because on the biggest structure, what I would like to see is, okay, let's go back onto the 4-hour. Someone is gossiping about me. My nose is itchy. Okay. Yeah, I was basically, let me just take this out the way. But what I was looking at, okay, guys, just ignore the counts over here. I'll go through that in a second. But I was basically looking at an A, B, C. I wanted to see a zigzag structure. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you might be asking yourself, what on earth is going to happen to Ethereum if Bitcoin hits $94,000? That is a big question on some people's mind. If Bitcoin had to go down to $94,000, where does it leave Ethereum and some of the altcoins? Okay, very good question. I can tell you now, guys, that okay, there's many ways in which we can count the structure to the upside, but I can tell you with high confidence that it's an impulsive 5-wave structure to the upside. Okay, maybe it's a 1, 2, 3, and we still need the 4. Okay, maybe 4 is going to take a little bit long. Okay, and we still need one more leg. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I do see there's a lot of people talking about this leg still to the upside. Definitely a possibility. I like it. Makes sense. What I would like, okay, because what I don't like about the scenario, which can definitely play out, is that you're only expecting one more leg to the upside. And then you need to go into a much larger, because after 5 waves, it cannot continue in 10 waves. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay. After 5 waves are in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you need to correct the impulse. You need to correct the structure. So this is not my favorite structure. If I could have my way, I want this to still correct deeper up until it hits this zone over here. Even this zone, if it goes a little bit more sideways, is perfectly fine. So let me tell you why. Okay. Because in this scenario, if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you may be looking at $6,000 Ethereum. And now you have to contend with this long, boring correction that takes forever. Okay, so the move to the upside is very short-lived, and then you have to contend with a larger corrective structure, yes, which could still form a 3-wave structure, find support and bounce, but you're going to wait months and months and months for this to happen. Okay, before it makes a higher low, because after 5-wave structure, 3-wave corrective structure, continuation to the upside. What I would like to see, okay, this is now if I could have my way, right, is this. 3 is in, 4 is in, and this was number 5 here to the upside. We already have a completed 5-wave structure to the upside. This is now, if I could have my dream year on the price of Ethereum, this is what I would like to see. Okay. Because the correction has already had some time to correct. It already had some time. So if Bitcoin falls to $94,000, $93,000, it doesn't matter, because this impulse needs to correct itself. And then, drum roll, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, because after you have a 5-wave structure to the upside, you then form a 1, 2, and this is the wave that I would like to get into. This is the wave that could take Ethereum to $10,000, $20,000. Okay, it's the third wave. So the longer Ethereum corrects and does not take the high, the longer it corrects, the better, the more bullish it potentially is going to become. So for the bulls, you actually want Ethereum to correct for longer, and you want the correction to be deeper and longer. Okay, because then you open up the door that this is a 1, you form a 2, and then you smash in a third wave here to the upside, which is way more bullish than a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can you guys see, the bulls, you actually want a larger correction, higher low continuation, because then you form a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $10,000, $12,000, who knows how high the third wave is going to go. Okay. So let's look at time, guys. Let's look at time. If this is the scenario that's going to play out, let's make this the primary scenario. Let's put it primary over there. Let's make it nice and green to say that, well, maybe Dewald's going to get what he wants. Okay, just maybe. Let's take time. So from the start of the impulse to the end of the impulse. Now you will see it's not time. Okay, the 0.382 is on the 16th of October. So if price can correct until the 16th of October without claiming the high, there's a good chance that this correction is forming a second wave. Okay, so if we get this, okay, ABC gives you a what? And maybe the C wave is not done. Maybe it's going to fall a little bit now. You get a W. You go back up, you form a X. You go back down, zigzag, down, you form a Y. Okay, so the 3-wave structure can still continue. And then this, ladies and gentlemen, is where I will turn extremely bullish, not just targeting $6,000, but $10,000. Okay, so if I could have my way, this is what I would like to see on Ethereum. I would like this to continue. Because I know everyone wants Ethereum to go up. Everyone wants the altcoins to continue. But I'm telling you guys now, the longer Ethereum corrects, the more bullish it becomes. If it's going to find, let's say this is the low and it goes up, then it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's done. Now you're going to be in for a very long correction. Now it's going to be like A, B, C, or A, B, C, W, X, you know, like this is going to bore the, but can you guys see, basically what I'm trying to highlight over here is it's going to be very short-lived. If it finds its feet here and it bounces, it's going to be very short-lived. So ideally, I would like Ethereum to continue correcting. If I could have my way. Right, okay, now I've given you guys Bitcoin analysis, I've given you some Ethereum analysis. Okay, I'm not going to dive into any altcoins at the moment. Let's go through some comments. Right, can be 1112, right, 1112 on Ethereum. Oops, I've lost 12121. Yes, it can be 1112 ideally, okay. It's not an invalidation, but what you would like to see, if this is a 1 2 1 2, okay, 1 2, ideally in 1112s, 112s, is you want the retracements to overlap this price. Okay, you want this retracement to overlap this price. Now here's a problem. So it does impact probabilities. So in a 1 2 1 2, you want to see that overlap. maybe another 1, 2. You want to see the overlap. And you need the waves also ideally to become smaller. Big 1, 2, smaller 1, 2, smaller 1, 2. And then you want to see the explosion to the upside. Now, I mean, you can see the structure here. It doesn't look nice in a triple 1, 2. Okay, you have this big 1, 2, beautiful. Then you have the smaller 1, 2 that did not overlap. So that impacts probabilities. It doesn't invalidate it, but it impacts probabilities. Now you have another 1 and you have a 2 that's longer than this 2. It's starting to look out of balance. Can you? It just does not look right. Okay, just it doesn't look right as a triple 1, 2. It doesn't invalidate it, but I do take that into consideration. Okay, slap the like button. Yes, if you haven't done so already, remember to smash up that like button. Wave 4 is too short. Haha, Kong. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Wave 4 is too short. I mean, if this is, I'm not sure if you're referring to Ethereum, but if we're still expecting this, okay, this is 3 and this is 4, okay. Well, it depends on where you put your high. For number 1, is 1 over there, is 1 over there, is 1 over there. Because here it also looks like it started with a double 1, 2. Here it looks like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. So maybe 1 goes over there. Okay. On the highest point of the structure. Now you have this little correction. You have this little correction and you have a fourth wave that's longer. So from a timing perspective, what I like to do is you take it from the high to the low of 2. I overlay it here with 3. Well, this correction is already twice the length. Okay, this correction is twice the length of this correction, which is fine. Fourth wave is long enough. It's as long as it's longer, it's fine. Okay, or at least the minimum requirement, which is not favorable, but I mean the 1-to-1 extension is 2 years over here, so you have a fourth wave that's potentially longer than your second wave, so there's a chance it could still come up for this 5. Not sure if you were referring to Ethereum, but there you go. Right, Dewald, could the bull run last longer than December? Yes, I do think it can last longer for ETH and BTC. I think it's gonna, guys, and this is not based on technical analysis, but I do think that the alt season is going to last a little bit longer, because usually what happens is, let's go here onto the daily time frame. Okay, usually what happens is, okay, let's say Bitcoin does this. Let's say Bitcoin does this and it gets to the top. This is where it's topping out. Okay, it's usually when Bitcoin gets here and it starts doing this. It does this. Okay, yeah, that's where you get alt season. While Bitcoin chops around at the top, making its double, triple tops here, whatever the case, that usually gives you alt season, where you see the shittest of shittest altcoin absolutely 100xing, 200xing, 1000xing, new meme coins, parabolic phases. It's here where it happens. Yes, you're obviously going to get some momentum here to the upside, but it's when Bitcoin consolidates at its top and Bitcoin dominance drops, that's where you get, okay, alt season. So this could continue into Jan. So what I'm basically trying to highlight is Bitcoin might, let's say, top out in December, but then in Jan, in February, while it's topping out and going sideways, that is where you could still get alts exploding to the upside for the next 2 months after. Okay. So we'll have to see how this is going to play out. But I do think that this bull cycle is going to last a little bit longer than October. I think it's going to, especially for alts, I think alts is going to carry on into November, December, maybe Jan even. Right, Ethereum. Okay, so I did do the right one. I feel like I'm watching Kuhn Daily Update in more time. Elliott Wave, same but different. Yes, I saw Kuhn said on his live stream, when he watches me, it looks like he's watching Kuhn version 2.0. Right, but you know, Kuhn taught me so much about Elliott Wave theory that when I talk about Elliott Wave theory, I can't help but preach and teach his methods, because he taught me Elliott Wave theory. And I think what I loved about Kuhn's Elliott Wave theory, and the reason I chose Kuhn as an Elliott Wave mentor, is that he really considers probabilities and rules and time that no other Elliott Wave counter I have seen considered. I don't think I've ever seen another Elliott Wave counter consider time, okay, and probabilities. Like I've seen Elliott Wave counters, they just go W, X, Y, X, Z. Every bloody structure, there's a W, X, Y, X, Z. And then there's expanding structures, but they never consider probabilities of each scenario. Expanding is very rare. It's exceptionally rare to even get a W, X, Y, X, Z. Okay, you have to consider all possibilities before you even look at those type of structures. And that is why I enjoyed learning from Kuhn, because he really focuses on probabilities of each structure, time, okay, invalidations. I don't think there's anyone that teaches Elliott Wave theory like Kuhn does. Okay. Right. Legends, I've unfortunately run out of time. My hour is up. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream. Remember, links for the exchanges that I use to trade always down in the description, where you get the biggest sign-up bonuses, lowest trading fees. Also, your way to support the channel. It costs you nothing extra. If you want to join our Legends Pro community, where I'm more active during the day, myself, Andy, Dylan, okay, we've got some coaches in there. We've got some amazing people inside of the community to surround yourself with like-minded people. Here's the link to join up. Right, Legends, have yourselves an amazing day. Until the next one, cheers for now.